And we're recording to the cloud. This is the Kubernetes SIG Network meeting for August 5th, 2021. Tim, I think you said you had issue triage lined up for us.
I do have it lined up. Let's share the screen. Pick a window. I think this is the right one. Everybody's got the screen? Yes?
Looking good.
All right, we have a whopping 6 to look at today. So the first one is a report about conformance. I did respond to it. It looks like they have something in their cluster that is doing some additional validation that the backend service exists and then failing the ingress creation. So I don't think this is actually a Kate's bug. I just responded here a little while ago. They're doing something that is intentionally non-conformant. So I don't think there's anything for us to do here unless I'm totally misinterpreting this bug. Anybody has any insight on this one?
I hadn't read it yet. That sounds right to me.
I trawled the code base. I couldn't find anywhere where we are doing that sort of validation. And I don't even know where we would do it except in admission control, which could have that extra context, but we don't. We don't do that. Again, unless I'm massively out of touch, which is possible. All right, so we'll let the original poster respond to it. My suspicion is we just close it. Next, there's a broken link on the SIG network page in community. So they filed a bug in a different repo. Somebody want to?
I think there's a PR open for this.
I did put in a PR to fix it, and now I'm just finding out all the fun ways that you have to generate YAML instead of actually editing anything. So I'm sorting that out. Should be fixed shortly.
Signed to you if you can add a cross repo fixes, I think, if you didn't already. So
Will do.
All right. Flaky test, mutability test to have no load balancer. I didn't have time to go and crack this one open yet.
I had it.
You took this one?
Yeah.
Beautiful. External traffic policy does not work for node port services. All right. So I was looking at some code recently as I was working on some of the service REST stuff, and I realized we don't create a health check node port when we create a node port service. And that seemed suspicious to me. And then I saw this, and did we intend for external traffic policy to apply to node ports? I can't remember.
I hit this thing, and because I added a test, and what we find out is that when you are testing inside the cluster, you hit all the IP table rules from the cluster. So the conclusion in that issue was that the traffic is internal, so it doesn't apply to external. I mean, you are creating the traffic from a pod, so it's internal.
It's internal, even though it's going through the node port, which they're expecting to be external.
I mean, when I added a test, and I think I discussed this with Andrew, and I mean, he's right. The traffic is from the cluster.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a confusing thing because also why wouldn't you be using the cluster IP of the service if you're internal to the cluster?
No, he wants to use a node port. So the thing is, if you go to a node port from a pod, despite it has external traffic policy local, you are able to reach it from any other node. So you have external traffic policy local, and you are in a pod in a node that is not with a pod in that service. So you hit the IP table rules, and despite you are not in the same node or in a node with a backend in that in that service, you are able to reach it. And
yes, I remember this now. I remember the discussion because it was a debate between, do we black hole that traffic in that case, or should we just make it work? Because there were clearly use cases that assume that they can hit their nodes on a node port for any service. I remember it now. Thank you. So do we close this as working as intended?
I thought Antonio's comment was valid, just pointing him to internal traffic policy, right? Isn't that what this is essentially asking for, that feature?
So I need to check again, because I sometimes I miss some things, but I think that he's in this scenario. There are some edge cases, but if he is pretending to do that, I mean, the traffic is from a pod, so it's internal traffic, and external doesn't apply. That's how it
Yes.
works.
Maybe we should document that better. Maybe the bug here is that we should be clearer about that particular case, because I remember pretty clearly now the conversation, and it was just a trade-off. It's wrong one way and it's wrong the other way. So we chose the wrong that we felt was least bad.
There is an open issue on IPVS because it differs, it black holes.
Oh, nice. Can you, Lars, if you have that bug, if you know where it is, can you XRef it to this one or something?
Yeah, I would do that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. I'll leave this open, then we can do a little bit more conversation. But it sounds to me like at most the bug fix here is documentation, or we decide that IPVS is right, or we decide that IPVS is wrong. Boy, I guess there's an open issue. All right, I'll leave it open for some discussion then. Next, contract and TCP. I see Antonio on it. I haven't had a chance to look at the other email threads yet. Do you want to give us a summary of this one?
Yeah, this is something that is I think that this is because people start to use deployments as VMs. So they have a deployment with 2 backends, and they decide to use a probe or something to remove the backend from the service, but the backend is still alive. So they keep sending TCP traffic to that, and they want to cut that connection, so it fade over to the endpoint that is available. But because we don't clean the contract entry, they keep hitting the backend that is not in the service, but this is still alive. So this is for me something that Bowie commented in another one that has I think that I linked it. And maybe the endpoint termination thing can solve this.
I don't know, because the terminating endpoints was simply so that we keep the representation of those terminating endpoints in the endpoint structure, but it doesn't change the way we're not going to go through and manually clear those contract records, because that's how people do traffic draining, right? Like if we did that, it would break everybody who currently works.
Right. That to me is why I think, but I didn't have time. I think that the problem is that this is not the model that they should use to deploy this HA deployments. If they want to have 2 backends and switch to another, they shouldn't been using deployment. So maybe if we can document, but I didn't have time to think how they can deploy that.
Well,
that thing.
They could do it this way, but they have to terminate that TCP session explicitly, right?
Yeah,
then the contract record will go away.
Yeah, but they don't want to do that. They want Kubernetes to do that.
All right. Well, I'll take a look at this one later too. It's interesting. Thanks for jumping on that. The last one. Sorry, go ahead.
The thing is, there are now 3 or 4 cases of this, so maybe it's a documentation thing, and we should say if you want to keep to an HA deployment and fail over and keep the unready backend working with TCP, you need to do this.
Yeah, that might be a really good, like a blog post or something.
Right.
Okay. Last issue to look at today then is an old one, I mean, a few weeks old. It's this request for changing between C group namespaces. My initial thought was, you know, maybe it seems reasonable. Ben's making some decent arguments about why the existing workarounds are acceptable. I don't have a strong feeling on this one. And I just haven't had a chance to circle back to it. Anybody else wants to weigh in on this?
Ben is right. Ben is right. Just mount a file system.
Okay, you're assigned this issue.
Yeah.
You want to comment on it and close it out?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Awesome. That's it. That's all our triage.
Well, the next item on the agenda is nothing. So this is a pretty short one.
I have one topic if nobody wants to talk.
Yeah, go for it, Antonio.
Okay, so let's go with the endpoints controller and the problem that we have. So the situation is the endpoints controller doesn't have a notion of ownership of endpoints. Okay, and we have this thing now that is GA, that is server-side apply. I have a PR with a prototype. Well, I don't know if Rob Scott is here. What we want to do with endpoints controller? We want to enhance it to have more control of the endpoints. We want to solve only this bug that when it starts, it deletes custom endpoints. I don't know.
Rob, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Yes, I missed the tail end of that question. I have been reviewing your PR though, and it seems awfully close to a solution.
My question is more is how deep do we want to go with endpoints? Do we want to make it better as in endpoint slices, or we just let's solve the bug and keep it this way?
Yeah, I think it's there's a couple problems that you've surfaced in your PR, and I think one of them is too difficult to solve in this scope, and probably will never be solved for endpoints, and that is that we're not watching for endpoints updates and reacting to them. So a user can change an endpoints resource and nothing will happen until a pod or something else changes related to that service that will trigger another sync. That's unfortunate, but that's the reality we have today. And it's, at least if it's anything like endpoint slices, we had to implement a kind of tracker to ensure that we weren't just requeuing the same service over and over again in that case. I think your simpler fix that you're already working on is sensible in just adding that note to the managed fields entry to say the controller has updated this endpoints resource and therefore is managing it. And then at the end of your, when it's time to clear out that endpoints resource, if we see that field, and if we see that the endpoints controller is the only manager of the endpoints resource, it feels like it's safe to clean that up. If something else has interacted with that endpoints resource, I think we should just leave it alone.
Okay. I mean, I did the PR to cover as much as possible to start the discussion. But if nobody is against that, we go for the simple thing. I'm happy with the simple thing. The other question that they have is, do we remove the check leftover thing and we move to only check the endpoints on the add event.
I think we need the check leftover endpoint still because we haven't really solved the rest. It's still very possible for the controller to be down for minutes, whatever, and for endpoints to not get deleted during that time frame because REST fails or something else fails. It's admittedly an edge case, but I don't think we've removed every potential case where that would be valuable.
Yeah, but then how do you solve the race?
Yeah, so I guess check leftover endpoints would need the same logic that anything else would, in that we would only clean up endpoints that have a managed entry, like a managed fields entry by endpoints controller.
But that's what you get when you add the add handler, because anytime that you start, each event is going to be an add event on endpoints.
What?
Okay, but I don't want to. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm right. I don't want to discuss the technical thing. So if we are happy with the solving the bug, you know, we aim for that. I will change the PR and we can keep discussing that. So, but everybody is happy with the server side apply thing.
Yeah, it works for me.
I think so. Anybody else has topics for today? Everybody wants to get 40 minutes back?
V122 was out yesterday, so thanks for everybody who worked on it.
Whoop, whoop. Time to open
And
the
then
can of worms for 23.
Yes, exactly. The next tweet is like, okay, let's go for V23. And I'm like, okay, man. Yeah, V23 is looking at November time frame for code freeze. So keep that date in mind.
Cool. In that case, everybody gets 40 minutes back.
One last question is how are we going with the dual stack? Are we going to GA this release or not? For the dual stack, are we going to GA it in this release or not?
So we had a conversation about this last release, right? And we decided then, I'm trying to remember exactly what we decided. It was, Bridget, do you
We
remember the
wanted to let
details?
it soak. Yeah, we wanted to let it soak a bit. And it's good that we did that since there was at least that one, the fix reconciliation bug that we found. But I think we just have to look and see if we've got any more feedback coming from the community. Otherwise, it looks like it's probably pretty good.
The biggest issue, I think, if I recall correctly, was that it went beta in 20, right? So we know that 20 wasn't available in any of the like managed providers pipelines, and we wanted to wait until it hit some number of those providers pipelines so that actual users are using the API. Even if they're not using the dual stack part of it, they're using the rest of the API, and we wanted to get some feedback on that. So
yeah,
I think that time is coming up.
Yeah, we've definitely had it out there in the managed providers for the last couple of months now. So
I think we can consider it for 23.
Yeah.
AKS had it March 31st. I just looked it up. And I think GKE V120.
Yep.
Yes, GKE V120 has it as well. Static. Okay. Excuse me if I don't understand the channels, but it's there. Like default batch version, and it's there.
Yeah. So no rest for the wicked. I guess I'm gonna go start editing now that we've got 122 out, I'm going to start editing stuff to get dual stack out there for 123, if that sounds good to folks.
I think that sounds great. And as someone who's staring at a lot of this test code that has hoops all over the place for if the dual stack is enabled, if the dual stack is not enabled, I will be super happy to rip that gate out.
Hooray. Great. Sounds good.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.